I am so proud of you. Yeah, you. The guy or gal who's buying an airplane, just bought a house, passed your check ride, got all the things going on in life, but just handling it fine. Very proud. Now that's your pep talk for the morning. If you've been forcing your significant other to watch this video, now is the time for them to leave. They've gotten something out of it, because we're going to dive really deep into talking about airplanes and buying airplanes. Specifically, liability protection, some of the documentation that's required, logbook research, and things that I look for when I'm just browsing around looking for a deal. Again, few seconds here. If you're not into airplane stuff, just walk away. Beautiful day outside. Go call your mom. Or, wash your face. I don't know. Get behind the ears next time. Yeah, I know what you're saying. This guy is weird. But you know what? Weird is okay because weird gets results. Let me tell you really quickly about this guy. You'll remember me talking about him a few videos ago. His name is James. James has just bought his first airplane. Congratulations, James, and thank you for being a subscriber to the channel. Now, he did a lot of the legwork himself, so I won't take any credit for this, but he's a part of the community who's been listening in, looking at me make questionable decisions, and decided, I can do that too. Let's have more Jameses. Or Jameses. Okay, congratulations, sir. Let's move on. We're only about 2 minutes into the video and I'm already switching things up on you. In the intro, we said we're going to look at liability, documentation, logbooks, and other general things that we're going to look for. But in true open source GA fashion, we're going to work things in reverse. First, I'm going to describe to you the end goal, and then we're going to walk through certain steps to get there. So hang on with me and you'll see where this goes. Okay, now, unless you do this for a living or you've got enough money to throw away when you make a mistake on one of these forms, I would highly recommend using a title company. A company like Aero Title out of Oklahoma comes to mind. I'm not sponsored by them, at least not yet, but it's who the buyer of the diamond used, and I had a really smooth experience with them. They will help you file all the paperwork, they'll do some of the title research, make sure there are no liens on the airplane. These are things you've got to think about. And then they're the ones interacting with the seller, ensuring that the seller holds up their end of the bargain. They'll open up escrow accounts, they'll do all that kind of stuff. So you don't have to because you've got other things to do, like be really excited about buying an airplane. Hey neighbor, I'm buying an airplane. Now, if that is not you and you would not like to use one of these services, you've got to look at two forms. FAA Form 8050-2, which is the aircraft bill of sale, and FAA Form 8050-1, which is the aircraft registration application. Don't ask me why 2 comes before 1 or 1 needed to come before 2. I don't make the rules, I just report on it on this channel. Now, the aircraft bill of sale will write down on paper to be filed with the FAA who's purchasing the airplane and who's selling the airplane. It's really simple as that. It just says these two people have engaged in some process that now makes one of them the owner and one of them not. That person can actually be an entity like an LLC or a nonprofit organization, and it's registered in exactly the same way using this form. After that form is filed, we then move on to 8050-1, which is the aircraft registration application. This is now telling the FAA that you would like to register your name as the true owner of the airplane and get the title of the airplane moved over to you. If you don't file both of these forms, you will get nastygrams from the FAA saying that they're missing information from you because they do not like not knowing where an airplane is or who owns it. A couple things come to mind here because this is my channel and it's just what I do. First of all, having things being written down on paper in 2025 seems pretty archaic. And as a matter of fact, it takes an unbelievable amount of time to get correspondence to go back and forth between the FAA if you get something wrong. Now, they've started accepting online documents by DocuSign or some other service like that, but I've never been able to get it to work. Another really great feature of the FAA is you can go online and request that they send you a scanned copy of every registration and every form that they have ever received under that tail number. It's a really great way to look back in the records to see what the airplane has gone through if the logbooks don't reflect the reality, or if you've misplaced the logbooks. You can rebuild some of it based on the old forms that the FAA has received. Now, here's the rub. You have to either pick hard copies being mailed out, or you can receive that information on a compact disc, a CD. When was the last time you used a CD? I mean, does your laptop even have a disc reader? Anyways, doesn't matter. Those are your options right now instead of a simple email. Okay, now that you see where we're going, let's talk about how to get there. And we'll talk about liability and how to limit your liability. Many airplane owners choose to form an LLC. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to form an LLC. You can go to Google and just search how to form an LLC, and usually a corporation like LegalZoom will pop up. They'll walk you through the formation, file all the paperwork, and boom, out the other side, you just give them some money, they give you an LLC. It's really that easy. You've got some operating rules so that you can file the proper paperwork in your state every single year. But for the most part, an LLC provides you with liability protection. For simplicity, a lot of people just end up registering their airplanes to themselves and using a PO box to shield their local address. But otherwise, an LLC is a really good idea. But it really does just mean that if there is a case where you are being sued or something's going on with the airplane, you and your assets are protected. That's what the LLC does for you. Now, there are certain tax advantages of having an LLC, and for that, I'm going to refer you to your local tax person so that they can help you figure out your own situation. But there are pass-through taxes and things to be written off and ways that you can avoid paying local taxes if you register an LLC somewhere else. I don't know much about that stuff, so I'm not going to comment on it, but that's why people form LLCs. The next thing to consider is the logbook and history of the airplane. You're usually looking at a couple different logbooks. It's going to be an airframe logbook, a propeller logbook, and then an engine logbook. If you've got several engines, you may have several logbooks. If you've got multiple propellers, you get where this thing's going. You want to look at an airplane where the logbooks are complete, where everything has been documented from the start of the airplane's life till yesterday, written down, signed off appropriately. And if you believe that that is possible in that kind of a detail, then I've got beachfront property in Idaho that I can sell you. Don't come at me, Idaho. I really love your state. More notes from the editing desk. Yeah, some people actually do take so much pride in their aircraft that they keep the logs straight, but I'm just saying sometimes it doesn't go that way. Stuff gets lost, hangar ferries, change light bulbs, people forget to write things down, that kind of thing. Not anything malicious, although there's some of that too, but you get what I'm saying. Now, if we're really looking at things with a crucial eye, we will note that the most recent set of logs are the most important. You may have had an engine overhaul at some point, in which case the history behind the overhaul or the history before the overhaul becomes almost irrelevant. It's nice to know that stuff, but the overhaul really means that you've hit the reset button. Now, there are different types of overhauls, field overhauls versus true overhauls, zero time, whatever. We're just talking about what's important to look at in the near term. If an airplane was built back in the 60s and I'm missing logbooks from 1965 to 1975 and the airplane's been flying ever since, do I really care about it? The airplane's been checked over enough times to where I trust the maintenance professionals have done a good job, and we can move on with purchasing, flying, and enjoying the airplane. Now, if all the logs are missing because they got flooded out or they got caught on fire, then that's a totally different situation. We can actually look back, like we were talking about, to the history of the airplane and the FAA records, get that disc or the paper copies, and see what forms have been filed. You're usually going to see a bunch of 337s, FAA Form 337. That form documents major modifications or when an STC got applied to the airplane, and sometimes AMPs and owners will use a 337 to record when certain maintenance actions were done, like AD compliance. That way you always have a running record of the state of the airplane. So you're looking for logbooks that are complete or can be rebuilt. So this is the part where I tell you the stuff that I typically look for when I'm buying an airplane or just browsing trade a plane when I've got spare time. Let's talk about engine overhauls. What does TBO actually mean and what does it represent? Now, everyone's got their opinion about TBO, and it's exactly that, just an opinion, because your situation might be different. Now, TBOs are typically either a calendar time or a set of hours that you have to comply with overhauling an engine. Sometimes it's 1,500 hours, sometimes it's 2,500 hours, or sometimes it's 6 years, 10 years, 12 years, whatever it might be. The manufacturer is saying that you should do something to this engine to ensure its health and its longevity. Now, does it mean that right at 1,000 or 1,500 or 2,000 hours or 6 years, the engine's just magically going to stop? No. An engine that's been running well forever will probably keep on running just fine until it gives you warning signs. So when I'm looking at an airplane, I'm using that time on the engine, if it's a little bit closer to TBO for that particular engine, as a bargaining chip. Or I'm just looking at it and going, oh, okay, I have 20 more years of flying before I hit that magical number because I'm only flying 100 hours anyway. Really do the math. Even if an airplane is 200 hours or 300 hours before it hits that magic TBO number, you might still have 3 years of really great service in that airplane, or you might have 30 years of great service out of that airplane. You really don't know. It's also really worth mentioning that infant mortality is a real thing. I don't think it makes up the majority, or I don't have statistics on it right now, but I would believe that early engines after overhaul might experience issues, just like any other mechanical thing would experience issues. So go in, use it as a bargaining chip, but don't let TBO or high-numbered engines stop you from buying an airplane that could give you years of service before it ever needs any work. The other thing to look at is damage history. How badly was the airplane dinged up in the past? Now, if it's been flying around for 30 years since that damage occurred, does it really matter? It's probably been looked over so many times by so many different A&Ps, someone would have caught it by now, or the damage would have been incredibly obvious. Now, things fatigue over time, but don't get me wrong, and no one's perfect. But these things don't just crop up overnight because something got bent in the past. There's really good guidance from the FAA that maintenance professionals use to tell them how to perform a repair or a patch or apply new parts or replace wings, replace spars. Those things are well documented and well known. Your maintenance professional should be able to take a look and see whether it was a good repair or a botched repair. Now, you hope that that documentation makes it out into the world. Sometimes you'll be able to find photos of the airplane after the damage. And you can take a look at that and make a guess for yourself whether it's worth it to you or not. That's about as far as that goes. And then finally, I'm looking at the general condition of an airplane. Has the owner kept it up? Are they proud of the airplane that they're flying? Does the interior look okay? And again, I'm an advocate of keeping airplanes outside, so the paint's never going to be perfect, or the seats might not be perfect, but can you tell that someone has cleaned the airplane or at least shown some interest in the airplane in the past? That will show very quickly in photos or when you walk up to an aircraft. The other thing is just taking a look at it with your maintenance professional. They will be able to take a look at any airplane and go, well, that flat spot on the tires really should have been taken care of a long time ago. Those are the clues that an airplane might have been neglected in the past. You're looking for these little things to indicate whether the airplane is actually good or it's bad, but sometimes the best example of the best airplane is the one that looks the worst from the outside, I will admit. But that's the exception, not the rule, in many cases. Now, there's all the ammunition you need to go out there and keep looking for airplanes. Look for the one that really catches your attention and see where it goes. Because I'm looking forward to seeing more of you end up like James and getting your own airplane, flying it around with that big smile on your face. Say something nice to yourself in the mirror, and we'll see you here again next time. Really glamorous, huh?